part of the Great Lakes tomorrow from the mountains of northern New England to the mountains of West Virginia and West Virginia Friday. High temperatures should be in the mid-70s to mid-80s across the region through Friday. And that, my friends, is a brief look at the nationwide weather forecast on this Wednesday. Now, for some reason, I'm still not able to get the Weather Channel or the Weather tab to come up on my Nook. So I am going to restart the whole system and hopefully have it for you in a few moments. I'll tell you what, I'll play this and maybe I can get it on my cell phone.
I used to get wet. I used to sweat. I used to get caught outside in the rain and snow. But now I'm warm and dry. Please don't follow me from the sky. 'Cause I get my weather from the radio.
And it occurred to me as I was picking up my cell phone, I forgot I deleted the Weather Tap app to make space for another program yesterday, and I haven't put it back in. So that won't work, but I'll have the weather forecast hopefully within a few minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to kill some time by getting ready for celebrity birthdays in a few minutes, as well as news of the weird after the CBS World News Roundup, and find out what's going on in the world in that regard, as well as popular tweets of the day later on, and a whole lot more. In the meantime, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, I'll have the composer's date book, as well as the writer's almanac with Garrison Keillor in just a little bit as well. I nearly forgot to mention this, and I can't believe I did that, because this is something that I found last night when I was looking up something else that I wanted to present on today's program, and when we get to Today in History, you'll understand more about why. But this is, let's see here, what did I do with it? Should be right there. There it is. Okay. Don't want to go through that incident like we did on Monday. Anyway, I was looking up information on President Ronald Reagan, and I came across his, basically, a pre-farewell speech that he made when he left office in 1989. And this is from January 11th, 1989, President Ronald Reagan. And it's a message that I think still resonates well today, and a reminder of what this part of what this country needs to do. I didn't fully respect President Reagan until many years after he's out of office, but this is something I think all Americans can relate to, in particular the young generation that's coming up today, coming through the public school systems. So parents, later on today when your kids get home, I want you to play this part of the program for them. It's a little over 3 minutes, and I think it's a pertinent message, okay? So here he is. Excuse me. I never thought I'd do this for President Reagan, but not that I had admonished him or anything in that way. It's just that, you know, he's been dead for a number of years, and he's been long since out of office for a number of years. So anyway, that's a whole nother matter. Here he is, my friends, President of the United States, Ronald Reagan.
This national feeling is good, but it won't count for much, and it won't last unless it's grounded in thoughtfulness and knowledge. An informed patriotism is what we want. And are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents in the long history of the world? Those of us who are over 35 or so years of age grew up in a different America. We were taught very directly what it means to be an American. And we absorbed almost in the air a love of country and an appreciation of its institutions. If you didn't get these things from your family, you got them from the neighborhood, from the father down the street who fought in Korea, or the family who lost someone at Anzio. Or you could get a sense of patriotism from school. And if all else failed, you could get a sense of patriotism from the popular culture. The movies celebrated democratic values and implicitly reinforced the idea that America was special. TV was like that, too, through the mid-60s. But now we're about to enter the 90s, and some things have changed. Younger parents aren't sure that an unambivalent appreciation of America is the right thing to teach modern children. And as for those who create the popular culture, well-grounded patriotism is no longer the style. Our spirit is back, but we haven't reinstitutionalized it. We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise, and freedom is special and rare. It's fragile. It needs production. So we've got to teach history based not on what's in fashion, but what's important. Why the Pilgrims came here, who Jimmy Doolittle was, and what those 30 seconds over Tokyo meant. You know, 4 years ago, on the 40th anniversary of D-Day, I read a letter from a young woman writing to her late father, who had fought on Omaha Beach. Her name was Lisa Zanata Henn, and she said, "We will always remember. We will never forget what the boys of Normandy did." Well, let's help her keep her word. If we forget what we did, we won't know who we are. I'm warning of an eradication of the American memory that could result ultimately in an erosion of the American spirit. Let's start with some basics. More attention to American history and a greater emphasis on civic ritual. And let me offer lesson number 1 about America. All great change in America begins at the dinner table. So tonight in the kitchen, I hope the talking begins. And children, if your parents haven't been teaching you what it means to be an American, let them know and nail them on it. That would be a very American thing to do.
President Ronald Reagan, my friends. We'll be right back after these messages.
Confessions of a Potentially Perfect Parent, brought to you by AdoptUsKids.org.
Okay, here goes. I know more about cooking dinner for a party of 12 than I do about packing a lunch for a 12-year-old. I know kids like things like PB&J, pigs in a blanket. Oh, and fish sticks. They do love fish sticks. Fillets I get, but sticks? What part of the fish does the stick come from? I know I can read a cookbook that'll tell me how to make a red wine reduction, but where are the cookbooks that can teach me how to cut the crusts off bologna sandwiches? Oh, maybe we can compromise on mac and cheese. Can you make that with brie? Everybody likes brie, right?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to push your food around their plate. Call 1-888-200-4005 or visit AdoptUsKids.org for more information. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Thanks for asking, but I'd rather not send you nude pictures. I'm camera shy. I already said no. It's against my religion. I'm giving my dog a bath. You can have pictures of that. Pressure gives me hives. Under my clothes, I'm a robot. Hold on, let me ask my mom. Sorry, my webcam is broken. I'm worried they'll get passed around school. Unfortunately, I just had my clothes surgically attached to my body. If they got out, I might never be president. I'm already naked, under my clothes. Not even if you were all 3 Jonas Brothers. I have a rash. I have nudophobia. I have lizard skin. The more you ask, the less I want to. You're not the boss of me. Nudity makes me vomit. I'm a vampire, so I don't show up in pictures anyways. Your badgering has really killed the mood.
When someone is pressuring you to do something you don't want to, how many ways can you say no before they get the message? Let us know at that'snotcool.com. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
The Writer's Almanac podcast is supported by the Poetry Foundation, publisher of Poetry Magazine. You can browse back issues of the magazine and become a subscriber at poetryfoundation.org.
And here is the Writer's Almanac for Wednesday. It's the 2nd of October, 2013. It's the birthday of Graham Greene, the novelist born in Berkhamsted, England, 1904. He was an avowed atheist. He'd been questioning his faith since boarding school. When he was 21, he wrote an essay referring to Catholics as people who worship the Virgin Mary. And he got an indignant reply from a young woman named Vivian Darrow Browning explaining that Catholics did not worship the Virgin Mary, they venerated her. He wrote back to her, and the two of them met, and Greene fell in love with her. She was a very devout Catholic, and she had other eligible men who were seeking her hand. But Green was stubborn. He wrote her no less than 2,000 letters and postcards, and he converted to Catholicism and married Vivian, and went on to write novels about characters struggling to reconcile their faith with the rest of their lives. His novel The Power and the Glory came out in 1940 about an old Mexican priest who calls himself a whiskey priest, who lives a life of drinking and adultery, and at the end of his life he's living on the run, practicing his faith, even though the new revolutionary government has outlawed Catholic sacraments. And it's the birthday of Wallace Stevens, born in Reading, Pennsylvania, 1879. Thought about becoming a journalist, but he got a degree in law instead and took a job with the Hartford Accident and Indemnity Company, where he worked his way up to vice president. He was in charge of inspecting surety claims. A colleague of Stevens's said he was a very imaginative claimsman. He was the dean of surety claimsmen in the whole country. Each day Wallace Stevens walked 2 miles between his home and his office, and during these walks to and from work, he composed poetry. His first collection, Harmonium, was published when he was 43. Stevens said, "After one has abandoned a belief in God, poetry is that essence which takes its place as life's redemption." Here's a poem for today by Wallace Stevens, A Postcard from the Volcano. Children picking up our bones will never know that these were once as quick as foxes on the hill, and that in autumn, when the grapes made sharp air sharper by their smell, these had a being breathing frost. And least will guess that with our bones we left much more, left what still is the look of things, left what we felt at what we saw. The spring clouds blow above the shuttered mansion house beyond our gate, and the windy sky cries out illiterate despair. We knew for long the mansion's look, and what we said of it became a part of what it is. Children, still weaving budded aureoles, will speak our speech, and never know, will say of the mansion that it seems as if he that lived there left behind a spirit storming in blank walls, a dirty house in a gutted world, a tatter of shadows peaked to white, smeared with the gold of the opulent sun. Wallace Stevens' poem, A Postcard from the Volcano, from his collected poems, published by Alfred A. Knopf and used by permission here on the Writer's Almanac, supported by the Poetry Foundation, publisher of Poetry Magazine, committed to discovering great poets and printing their verse. Back issues and subscriptions available at poetryfoundation.org. And by Lumosity. Lumosity.com's daily online workouts are designed to improve memory and attention and are dedicated to helping people feel sharper, think faster, and remember more. More at Lumosity.com. Engineered by Noah Smith and produced by Joy Biles. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.
This is the Composer's Datebook for October 2nd. I'm John Zeck. Vienna may be the city of dreams, but it is also the city of scandal, intrigue, and gossip, and the Viennese would be the first to admit it, especially where music is concerned. On today's date in 1849, Johann Strauss Jr. conducted his father's orchestra for the first time, just 2 days after the elder Strauss's funeral. Now, you'd think the Viennese would see that as a good thing, the younger Strauss picking up his father's baton to keep the orchestra alive. But in Vienna, heads shook and tongues wagged. Insiders reported that some members of the orchestra refused to perform under the younger Strauss, who 2 years earlier had dared to set up his own orchestra in direct competition with his father's. A shocking lack of filial piety, said some, and they called for a boycott. Others recalled that, truth be told, Johann